Millionaire falls in love at first sight with the bridesmaid who was late to his friend's wedding. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. Imagine a scene. A lavish wedding at one of the most prestigious venues in the city, the kind of place where everything is perfectly in place. The chandeliers sparkle like diamonds, and the sound of the orchestra fills the air. Guests in designer suits and elegant gowns fill the room, all eyes on the bride and groom as they exchange vows. But in the midst of this flawless event, a small disruption occurs. A woman walks into the wedding hall, late, and with a flustered look on her face. Her name is Emily, and she's the bridesmaid who's running behind. In a rush to make it to the ceremony, she trips slightly as she steps into the grand hall, drawing a few curious glances from the guests. She's out of breath, her dress slightly wrinkled, and her hair not quite perfect. She's a far cry from the other bridesmaids, who are poised and flawless. Despite her disheveled appearance, Emily's presence feels refreshing among the perfection that surrounds her. Across the room, seated at a table near the back, is Ethan, a wealthy and successful entrepreneur. His sharp eyes catch the sight of Emily stumbling through the door. His attention shifts from the bride and groom to the late bridesmaid. There's something about her, something different from the polished crowd. Ethan's friends have been trying to set him up with eligible women, but he's always been uninterested. The women he meets are beautiful, yes, but they lack the authenticity he craves. He's become disillusioned with the world of wealth and status, finding little connection with those around him. But Emily, with her imperfect but genuine charm, catches him off guard. For a moment, it's as if the noise of the wedding fades away. He watches her nervously adjust her dress, and then their eyes meet. There's an instant spark, a connection that neither of them was expecting. Emily doesn't notice him at first, but Ethan can't look away. She's not the type of woman he's used to, but for the first time in a long while, he feels intrigued, curious. He can't help but wonder, who is she, and why does she feel so different from the others? As the ceremony continues, Ethan's mind keeps drifting back to Emily. He's unsure of why, but he feels drawn to her in a way that's unfamiliar to him. His friends, noticing his distracted demeanor, tease him, but Ethan barely hears them. His thoughts are still on the bridesmaid. The reception begins, and Emily finally finds her seat, though she's still feeling out of place. She's surrounded by strangers, all of them much wealthier and more polished than she is. She's just a regular woman, with a simple job and big dreams, trying to make her way through life. And yet, there's something magnetic about this atmosphere, despite her discomfort. As the night progresses, Emily and Ethan's paths cross again, though neither of them knows the other's thoughts. She smiles politely at him, a little nervous, and he smiles back, but there's something more in his gaze. It's a mixture of curiosity and admiration, though neither of them speaks of it. And as the evening goes on, neither of them can shake the feeling that something, perhaps magical, is beginning to unfold between them. Ethan can't stop thinking about her, and Emily, despite her discomfort, begins to wonder who the quiet, intriguing man is. Will fate bring them together? Or is this just a fleeting moment in time? The evening carries on, and the wedding reception is in full swing. Ethan stands near the bar, holding a drink, but his mind isn't on the lively conversations or the laughter around him. His gaze keeps drifting toward the far corner where Emily is sitting, her eyes nervously scanning the crowd. She's trying to fit in, but there's a noticeable unease about her. She doesn't belong here, at least not in the way everyone else does. And yet, there's something about her presence that makes Ethan feel as though he's been pulled into a different world. He watches her laugh at something one of the other bridesmaids says, her smile lighting up her face in a way that makes his chest tighten. It's strange, he's barely spoken to her, yet it feels like he's already lost in her orbit. As the night goes on, Ethan can't stop thinking about that fleeting moment earlier when their eyes met. The connection, the spark, it was undeniable. But what does it mean? Why does it matter so much? Emily, on the other hand, is trying her best to enjoy the evening, but she's still feeling out of place. The laughter, the champagne, the perfectly orchestrated event, it all feels so foreign to her. She's a waitress, a woman of humble means with big dreams, but little opportunity. She's never had the luxury of fitting in with people like this. And yet, there's Ethan, standing across the room, his dark eyes still fixed on her from time to time. Every glance he gives her sends a little flutter through her chest, though she tries to ignore it. Why would someone like him, successful, wealthy, and handsome, be interested in someone like her? She brushes off the thought, but it lingers. As the night drags on, the awkwardness starts to fade. Emily, after another glass of champagne, finds herself laughing freely with the other bridesmaids. She's not as self-conscious anymore, but she still can't shake the feeling that something strange is unfolding. Ethan continues to watch her, feeling a pull he can't explain. He's intrigued, yes, but it's more than that. There's something genuine about her, something refreshing. He's used to dealing with people who care more about status than substance. But Emily? She doesn't seem to care about any of that. She's real in a way he hasn't encountered in years. As the music plays and the crowd dances, Ethan decides he can't just stand there anymore. He walks toward her, heart racing a little. He doesn't know what he's going to say, but he knows he has to speak to her. When he reaches her table, he stops for a moment, unsure whether to interrupt. But then she looks up, her eyes meeting his, and suddenly, the uncertainty vanishes. "I hope I'm not interrupting," Ethan says, his voice steady but with a hint of nervousness. "Not at all," Emily replies, offering a smile. "It's just a little awkward over here with everyone else dancing. I'm not exactly the life of the party." Ethan chuckles softly, taking a seat across from her. "Neither am I," he admits, "but I'd like to change that for both of us." The words hang in the air for a moment, and Emily can't help but laugh. There's something disarming about his presence, something that puts her at ease. For a brief moment, she forgets about the fancy venue, the people around them, and just enjoys the conversation. As they talk, Ethan learns that Emily has a passion for painting, something she rarely gets the chance to pursue. She dreams of one day opening her own gallery, but she's unsure if that will ever happen. Ethan is fascinated. He listens intently, hanging on every word. There's something about her, something that makes him want to know more. Before they know it, the night is winding down. Guests begin to leave, and the wedding starts to come to a close. Ethan can't shake the feeling that he's just begun to scratch the surface of who Emily really is. And for the first time in a long while, he's excited about the possibility of getting to know someone beyond the surface. He walks her to her car, both of them a little reluctant for the night to end. As they stand by the door, Ethan turns to her. "I know this is crazy, but would you like to grab a coffee sometime?" he asks. Emily looks at him, surprised but pleased. "I'd like that," she replies, smiling. They exchange numbers, and as she drives away, both of them feel like something has shifted. The evening wasn't just a fleeting moment, but the start of something unexpected. Little did they know, this simple night would change the course of both their lives forever. The following week, Emily and Ethan met for coffee, just like they had agreed. The coffee shop was cozy, tucked away on a quiet street, a small haven from the bustling city. As Emily walked in, she spotted Ethan at a table by the window, his dark hair slightly tousled, his gaze focused on a book in front of him. For a brief moment, she hesitated. Was she really ready for this? But as soon as their eyes met, all her doubts melted away. He gave her a warm smile, one that made her feel as though she belonged. "Hey, I'm glad you could make it," Ethan said, standing up to greet her. His voice was familiar now, comforting in a way that eased her nerves. Emily smiled back, settling into the seat across from him. "I'm glad too," she replied. "I've been looking forward to this." Over the next hour, the conversation flowed effortlessly. They shared stories about their lives, their hopes, and the little things that made them who they were. Emily found herself laughing more than she had in a long time. Ethan, on the other hand, couldn't remember the last time he felt so at ease with someone. There was something about Emily that was different from anyone he had ever met. She was honest, down to earth, and unpretentious. She didn't care about his wealth or status, and that felt like a breath of fresh air. As the coffee cups emptied, Ethan leaned back in his chair, studying Emily with an intensity that caught her off guard. "So, tell me more about this art gallery you want to open," he said, his tone serious but gentle. Emily's heart skipped a beat. She had never told anyone about her dream so openly before. "Well, It's something I've always wanted to do, she began. I've been sketching since I was a kid, but it's always felt like a dream I couldn't reach. I've never had the money or the connections to make it happen. Ethan listened carefully, his eyes never leaving her face. You know, he said after a moment, I think that's an incredible dream. And I believe you can make it happen. Emily looked at him, surprised by his words. You really think so? She asked, unsure if she believed it herself. Ethan nodded. I don't just think so, I know so. You've got the talent, the passion, and the drive. That's more than most people have. Emily felt a warmth spread through her chest. She hadn't expected Ethan to say something so supportive, so sincere. It made her feel like maybe, just maybe, her dream was possible. As they wrapped up their coffee, Ethan asked her if she wanted to meet again soon. Emily, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness, agreed. They exchanged smiles, and with a promise to meet again the following weekend, they parted ways. As she walked back to her apartment, Emily's thoughts were racing. She had always felt so alone in her aspirations, so unsure of how to achieve them. But now, with Ethan's encouragement, things felt different. Could he really help her? Could they make something happen together? Ethan, on the other hand, couldn't shake the feeling that meeting Emily was the best thing that had happened to him in a long time. There was something about her that made him want to invest in her, to help her reach her potential. As he drove home, he couldn't stop thinking about their conversation. There was a spark between them, something more than just attraction. It was a connection that felt real, and for the first time in a while, he felt hopeful about the future. He was determined to support her in any way he could, not just because of her talent, but because of the person she was. Emily and Ethan's paths were starting to intertwine in ways neither of them had expected, and neither of them knew where this new journey would take them. But one thing was certain, their story had only just begun. The days that followed were filled with excitement and anticipation. Emily and Ethan met several times, each meeting more meaningful than the last. With each conversation, their connection grew stronger, but so did the complexity of their feelings. Ethan couldn't deny that he was falling for Emily. There was something about her that captivated him, her honesty, her passion for art, and the way she viewed the world with such refreshing sincerity. Emily, too, was starting to feel something she hadn't in a long time. Ethan's support, his belief in her dream, was the encouragement she had always needed but never received. With him by her side, she started to feel like maybe, just maybe, she could make her dream of opening an art gallery a reality. One afternoon, they found themselves walking through the city, chatting about their favorite art galleries and the artists they admired. Emily was particularly animated as she spoke about an exhibit she had seen years ago, her eyes lighting up as she described each piece in vivid detail. Ethan couldn't help but watch her, completely entranced by the way her face lit up when she talked about something she loved. He had never seen someone so passionate. As they strolled through the city, they came across a small, run-down building with a "For Rent" sign hanging in the window. Emily stopped in her tracks and stared at the sign. "What do you think?" she asked, her voice filled with both excitement and uncertainty. Ethan followed her gaze, seeing the potential in the space, despite its dilapidated appearance. "I think it has potential," he said, his voice thoughtful. "But it's going to take a lot of work to get it where you want it." Emily's heart skipped a beat. This was it. The opportunity she had dreamed of for so long was right in front of her, and yet, doubt crept in. "But I don't have the money to fix it up," she said quietly, her voice tinged with worry. Ethan smiled gently, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to do it alone," he said. "I'll help. We can figure it out together." Emily looked at him, her heart swelling with gratitude. She had never expected this. Never expected someone like Ethan, someone with his wealth and success, to care so much about her dream. "Are you sure?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan nodded. "I'm sure. You have something special, Emily. I want to help you make it happen." As the words sank in, Emily's heart swelled with emotion. For the first time in a long time, she felt truly seen, not just for what she could achieve, but for who she was. She smiled, her eyes brimming with tears of gratitude. "Thank you, Ethan. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," he replied with a warm smile. "Let's just make this dream come true." And so, the decision was made. With Ethan's support, Emily took the first step toward making her art gallery a reality. Over the next few months, They worked tirelessly to transform the space. Ethan used his connections to secure contractors and artists, while Emily poured her heart into designing the layout and curating the pieces that would fill the gallery. The process was long and difficult, but with each passing day, they got closer to making her dream a reality. Through it all, their bond deepened. What started as a simple connection over coffee had blossomed into something much more. They had become partners, not just in business, but in life. As the grand opening of the gallery approached, Emily stood in the space one evening, taking it all in. The walls were lined with beautiful art, the soft lighting creating the perfect atmosphere. It was everything she had imagined and more. Ethan walked in, a proud smile on his face. "It's beautiful," he said, his voice filled with admiration. Emily turned to him, her heart full. "I couldn't have done it without you. You did all the hard work," he said, his voice sincere. "But I'll always be here to help you, no matter what." And in that moment, Emily realized that what they had built together was more than just a gallery. It was a testament to their connection, their trust, and the love that had grown between them. The dream had come true, not just because of hard work and dedication, but because of the incredible bond they had formed. And as they stood together in the gallery, the future looked brighter than ever. The grand opening of Emily's gallery was finally here. After months of hard work, late nights, and shared dreams, the gallery was ready to open its doors. Ethan stood by her side, watching her as she greeted guests, her smile brighter than ever. It had been an emotional journey, one filled with challenges and triumphs, but they had made it. The space was everything Emily had envisioned, bright, inviting, and full of character. The walls were lined with beautiful pieces of art, each telling a unique story, and the soft lighting made everything feel warm and alive. As the evening went on, the guests poured in, admiring the artwork and complimenting Emily on her vision. Ethan watched from across the room, feeling an overwhelming sense of pride. He knew the road had not been easy for her. She had worked tirelessly to get to this point, and it was all paying off. As Emily spoke with a group of visitors, her eyes caught Ethan's from across the room. She smiled at him, a smile that made his heart skip a beat. He walked over to her, his steps purposeful. "You've done it," he said, his voice filled with admiration. Emily's face lit up. "We've done it," she corrected, taking his hand. "I couldn't have done any of this without you." Ethan smiled, his thumb gently stroking the back of her hand. "You did the hard part. I just helped make it happen." They stood there for a moment, the noise of the crowd fading into the background. In that moment, it was just the two of them, the culmination of everything they had worked for. The connection between them was undeniable. It wasn't just about the gallery, or even the dream that had come true. It was about them, about what they had built together. The night continued with laughter and celebration, but for Emily and Ethan, the most meaningful part of the evening was the quiet understanding they shared. The gallery was a symbol of their partnership, of the trust and support they had given each other. As the evening wound down, Emily and Ethan stepped outside for a breath of fresh air. The cool night air felt good against their skin. They stood in silence for a moment, the soft hum of the city around them. Emily turned to Ethan, her voice soft. "Thank you," she said, her eyes filled with emotion. "For everything. For believing in me when I didn't even believe in myself." Ethan looked at her, his expression tender. "You've always had the ability, Emily. I just reminded you of that." Emily smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude. She had come so far, from that first awkward meeting at the wedding to standing here, in the gallery she had always dreamed of. And none of it would have been possible without Ethan. "I never imagined I'd be here," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I'm glad I am. I'm glad it's with you." Ethan's hand found hers, squeezing gently. "I'm glad too," he said. "You've brought something into my life that I didn't even know I was missing." The warmth in his words made Emily's heart race. She had never felt more certain about anything in her life. She had found something real, something worth holding on to. As they stood there, the city lights twinkling around them, Emily knew that this was just the beginning. There was so much more ahead of them, so much they could achieve together. The gallery was a dream realized, but it was only the first step in the journey they were now on. And no matter where it took them, Emily was ready. Because she wasn't alone anymore. She had Ethan by her side, and with him, she felt like she could take on the world. As the weeks passed, Emily's gallery began to gain recognition. Local artists admired her vision, and people who shared her passion for art filled the space, creating a vibrant community around the gallery. With Ethan's continued support, Emily felt like she was finally living the life she had always dreamed of. But as the gallery flourished, the weight of managing it began to take its toll on her. She had always been a dreamer, but the reality of running a business was much more complicated than she had imagined. There were endless meetings with suppliers, late-night phone calls with contractors, and an overwhelming amount of paperwork. She found herself constantly juggling her responsibilities, feeling like she was always one step behind. It was on one of those long, exhausting nights that Ethan noticed something was off. He had been by her side throughout this journey, but tonight, he could see the exhaustion in her eyes. He found her sitting at her desk in the gallery, surrounded by stacks of papers, a half-empty cup of coffee by her side. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked gently, his voice soft as he stepped into the room. Emily looked up, her face tired but forced into a smile. "Yeah, just a lot to handle right now," she replied, her voice tinged with frustration. "It's not as easy as I thought it would be." Ethan walked over and knelt beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to do this alone," he said, his voice firm but caring. "You've built something amazing here, but you need to take care of yourself too." Emily sighed, feeling the weight of his words sink in. "I don't want to let anyone down," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've worked so hard for this, and I don't want it to fall apart." Ethan smiled, his eyes full of understanding. "You're not alone in this. We've come this far together, and we can keep going. I'll help however I can." Emily looked at him, her heart swelling with gratitude. "I don't know what I would do without you," she said softly. Ethan leaned in, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You don't have to worry about that," he said, his voice low and reassuring. "You've got me." In the days that followed, Ethan helped Emily find a better balance between her work and her personal life. He took on more of the business responsibilities, handling meetings with contractors and organizing events, allowing Emily to focus on what she loved most, the art. Slowly but surely, Emily began to feel like she could breathe again. With Ethan's help, she was able to reclaim the passion that had driven her to start this journey in the first place. As they worked side by side, their bond grew stronger. They laughed together over silly mistakes, shared quiet moments of understanding, and supported each other through the tough times. One evening, as they were finishing up work in the gallery, Ethan turned to Emily, his expression serious but warm. "I've been thinking," he said, his voice low. Emily looked up from the painting she had been admiring, her brow furrowed. "What about?" she asked, sensing the shift in his tone. Ethan took a deep breath. "I know we've been through a lot together," he began, "but I want to take this one step further. I want to make sure you know how much you mean to me." Emily's heart skipped a beat, her eyes meeting his. She had always known there was something special between them, but hearing him say those words made everything feel more real. "Ethan, she started, but Ethan gently interrupted her. "No, just hear me out," he said, a small smile tugging at his lips. "I want to spend the rest of my life with you, Emily. I want to help you build this dream, and I want to be by your side through everything." The words hung in the air, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. Emily's breath caught in her throat as she realized what he was saying. She had never been one to expect grand gestures, but this moment, this promise, felt like the beginning of something even more beautiful than she had ever imagined. Finally, with tears welling in her eyes, Emily nodded. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I want that too." Ethan's face broke into a smile, and he reached for her hand, holding it tightly. In that moment, they knew that whatever came next, they would face it together. And as the gallery stood as a testament to their dreams and hard work, their future together felt even brighter. They had built something truly special, not just in the gallery, but in each other. And with every step forward, they knew they were ready for whatever life had in store. The days following Ethan's confession were filled with an overwhelming sense of joy and excitement. Emily felt as though a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. The future, which had once seemed uncertain and daunting, now appeared full of possibilities. Together, they worked even harder to make the gallery a success. But now there was a new layer to their relationship, the deep, unspoken connection that had blossomed into something undeniable. Yet, despite their growing happiness, Emily began to feel a sense of unease. She had spent her whole life building walls to protect herself from disappointment and heartache. She had worked so hard for her dream, and she feared that by letting someone in completely, she might lose everything she had worked for. Ethan noticed the change in her. She had become distant, not in her actions, but in the way she carried herself. He could see the strain in her eyes, the worry that she was trying to hide. One evening, after a long day at the gallery, as they were sitting on the balcony overlooking the city lights, Ethan decided to address the elephant in the room. "Emily, what's going on?" he asked, his voice gentle but insistent. Emily looked at him, her heart pounding. She wanted to say everything, to let him know how much she was struggling with the fear of losing herself in the relationship. But the words wouldn't come. She looked away, her gaze drifting to the horizon. "It's nothing," she finally replied, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm scared." Ethan turned to her, his face filled with concern. "Scared of what?" She took a deep breath, gathering the courage to speak. "Scared of losing myself," she confessed. "I've worked so hard to get to where I am. And now, with everything changing, I'm afraid I'll forget who I am, what I wanted. I don't want to lose myself in this relationship, Ethan." Ethan's heart ached as he listened to her. He understood her fears. He knew what it felt like to be consumed by ambition, to lose sight of who you are in the pursuit of success. But he also knew that love wasn't about losing yourself. It was about growing together. "Emily, you're not going to lose yourself," he said softly, taking her hand in his. "I'm here for you, but I'm not here to change you. You are amazing just as you are. And I want to be part of your journey, not take anything away from it." Emily's eyes welled with tears as she looked at him. She had never expected to hear those words that reassured her that she didn't have to sacrifice her dreams for love. "But what if I get so caught up in this that I forget everything I've worked for?" she asked, her voice trembling. Ethan smiled, a reassuring, gentle smile that made her feel safe. "Then we'll make sure you don't," he said. "We'll take it one step at a time, together. And I'll always remind you of what you're capable of." Emily's heart swelled with emotion as she looked into Ethan's eyes. In that moment, she knew he wasn't just someone who loved her. He was someone who believed in her, someone who would stand by her no matter what. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't know what I would do without you." "You'll never have to find out," Ethan replied softly, brushing a stray tear from her cheek. "I'm right here always." The conversation marked a turning point for Emily. She realized that love, when it was real, didn't mean losing yourself. It meant growing and evolving together, supporting each other through the highs and the lows. With Ethan by her side, she no longer feared the future. She knew she could have it all, her dream, her gallery, and the love they shared. The next few weeks were filled with a renewed sense of purpose. Emily focused on the gallery, diving into her work with a newfound energy. And Ethan, true to his word, continued to be her rock, supporting her in every way he could. As the gallery continued to thrive, so did their relationship. They learned to balance their personal and professional lives, finding time for each other even in the busiest moments. And as they sat together one evening, watching the sunset from the gallery's rooftop, Emily realized that the future was no longer something to fear. It was something to embrace, and she was ready for whatever came next, with Ethan by her side. As the months passed, the gallery continued to grow, and so did Emily and Ethan's relationship. They had become an inseparable team, not just in business, but in life. Their days were filled with laughter, collaboration, and a shared sense of purpose. But despite the success and happiness they had found together, there was still one thing that lingered in the back of Emily's mind: the fear of losing it all. She had worked so hard for this, and even with Ethan by her side, she couldn't shake the feeling that something could go wrong at any moment. It was on a quiet evening, as they sat together in the gallery, that Emily's worries resurfaced. She had been up late working on an upcoming exhibit, and the exhaustion was starting to take its toll. Ethan, noticing the strain in her eyes, leaned back in his chair and looked at her with concern. "You're pushing yourself too hard again," he said softly, his voice filled with care. Emily looked up, meeting his gaze. "I can't help it," she replied, her voice weary. "I've come so far, Ethan. I can't afford to slow down now." Ethan's expression softened. He knew how hard she had worked to get to this point, but he also knew that pushing herself to the brink wasn't the answer. You don't have to do it all alone, he said, his tone reassuring. We're in this together, remember? Emily felt a lump form in her throat. She had always been so independent, so determined to make everything happen on her own. But with Ethan's words, she realized that she didn't have to carry the weight of the world alone anymore. He was right. They had built this together, and they could continue to build it together. I just don't want to let you down, she confessed, her voice trembling slightly. You've done so much for me, for the gallery. I don't want to be the reason it all falls apart. Ethan reached across the table and took her hand in his touch warm and steady. You're not going to let me down, he said, his voice firm. And the gallery? It's not just yours. It's ours. We've both worked for it, and we'll both keep working for it, no matter what comes our way. Emily's heart swelled with gratitude. She had always feared that love would mean sacrificing her independence, but here was Ethan, showing her that it didn't have to be that way. Together, they could support each other's dreams, without losing themselves in the process. Thank you, she whispered, her eyes filled with emotion. I don't know what I'd do without you. Ethan smiled softly, his gaze full of warmth. You'll never have to find out, he replied, his voice full of promise. I'm not going anywhere. In that moment, Emily realized that her fears, while real, didn't have to control her anymore. With Ethan by her side, she had everything she needed to keep moving forward. She didn't have to face the challenges alone. And as they sat there, holding hands, looking out at the gallery they had built together, Emily knew that the future was no longer something to fear. It was something to embrace. Together, they had created something beautiful, a dream realized, and they were just getting started. The road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. No matter what, they would face it as a team, supporting each other every step of the way. Months passed, and Emily and Ethan's journey together continued to unfold in ways neither of them could have predicted. The gallery became more than just a business. It became a symbol of their shared dreams and the foundation of their future. They had found a rhythm in their relationship, a delicate balance between their work and their love for each other. As the gallery flourished, so did their bond. They had faced their fears, supported each other through challenges, and built something meaningful together. And yet, in the quiet moments between the bustle of everyday life, Emily knew there was still one thing left unsaid. One thing that had been lingering in her heart for some time. It was late one evening when she finally decided to bring it up. Ethan was in the back office of the gallery, working on a new project, when she walked in. She hesitated for a moment, watching him as he sat at the desk, his brow furrowed in concentration. She smiled softly, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. Ethan looked up, noticing the change in her expression. Everything okay? He asked, his voice gentle. Emily took a deep breath, walking over to him and sitting down beside him. I've been thinking, she began, her voice soft, but steady, about everything we've built together. The gallery, our relationship. I don't know how to say this, but I feel like we've come so far, and I don't want to mess it up. Ethan frowned, slightly, his concern evident. Mess it up? How? Emily looked at him, her eyes filled with uncertainty. I just don't want to lose myself in all of this, she confessed. You've been amazing, Ethan, but I'm still afraid that in trying to make this work, I might forget who I am, what I want. I don't want to lose my identity in this relationship. I don't want to give up my dreams or lose sight of the person I've always been. Ethan's heart softened as he listened to her. He knew how hard it was for Emily to open up, to share her vulnerabilities. But he also knew how much she had grown since they first met. Emily, he said, his voice filled with tenderness. You don't have to worry about that. You are who you are because of everything you've been through. Your dreams, your passion, everything that makes you you. I love you for all of that. I don't want to change who you are, and I would never ask you to give up your dreams. We're partners, not just in business, but in life. You'll always have the space to be yourself, to grow, and to chase your dreams. And I'll always be here to support you, no matter where that journey takes you. Emily felt tears welling in her eyes as she looked at him. His words were everything she needed to hear. The reassurance she had longed for. The reminder that she didn't have to sacrifice her own aspirations for the sake of love. She smiled through the tears, feeling a wave of relief wash over her. Thank you, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. I don't know how I got so lucky to have you in my life. Ethan smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. No, Emily, he said softly. I'm the lucky one. They sat there together for a while, the weight of their conversation settling in. Emily knew that with Ethan by her side, she could face anything. He had never asked her to be anything other than herself, and in turn, she had never felt more supported, more loved, and more ready to take on the future. As the months continued to pass, the gallery became even more successful. But the true success was in the life they were building together, a life full of love, support, and the shared commitment to their dreams. Emily had found the courage to keep pursuing her passions, with Ethan always there, walking beside her. They had built something beautiful, something enduring, not just in the gallery, but in each other. And in that, Emily knew that they had already achieved everything they needed to. The future was bright, and with Ethan by her side, she was ready for whatever came next. In this heartwarming story of love and ambition, we dive into the life of Emily, a determined woman with big dreams, and Ethan, a successful entrepreneur who sees her potential. This tale is full of unexpected twists, showcasing how two individuals from different worlds can come together and build something meaningful. Through hard work, trust, and undeniable chemistry, Emily and Ethan embark on a journey that changes both of their lives forever. With the struggles of running a business, the fear of losing oneself in a relationship, and the beauty of unconditional support, this is one of the most touching millionaire stories you'll ever hear. As their gallery grows, their connection deepens, proving that with the right partner, any dream is possible. Their story reminds us that love and success go hand in hand when two people support each other's goals. This is just one of many millionaire stories that show how true love isn't just about wealth, but about building something together. Emily and Ethan's journey is a testament to perseverance, growth, and finding your true self, all while navigating the ups and downs of life and business. If you're a fan of millionaire stories that capture the essence of love, ambition, and support, this is one you won't want to miss.